So today, what we're going to talk about is speaking in public. It's to help the speakers as well as experienced speakers, whether you're inexperienced or experienced. It's really some good stuff. I have had the wonderful pleasure of being able to speak for probably 35, 40 years now. And I've been a speaker at conventions and then when I retired from the event industry, I started teaching these classes. So it's speaking in public also here. And I've learned some real neat things, I think, about speaking in public. First of all, it's the fear, they say, that is even worse than the fear of death with a lot of people. They have a horrible, horrible time doing it. And I'm going to talk about that as well as identifying the subject that you want to speak about. That's very, very important. Talk about the subject that you're going to speak about. And you need to understand your audience. It's very important to understand your audience and the demographics of the audience. You know, what's their age, what's their ethnic backgrounds, so on and so forth. It's all very, very important because it's going to determine how you are going to present yourself, how you are going to work with them. And because if you are not in a working simpatico relationship with your audience, you fall flat on your face. And that's exactly what you don't want to do. You want to understand the venue that you're going to be presenting in. If you're going to be presenting live or you're going to be presenting not live, but like we are doing on Zoom here. I think I've got everybody in. If you're presenting virtually, for me, it happens to be more difficult to present virtually than it is in person. In person is much more my style, but you know what? It's different for everybody. And I find that I will get more nervous over speaking virtually than in person. But it's okay to be nervous. It's okay, because when you are nervous, it really makes you more on your game. And it's a very important thing that when you are getting ready to speak about something, that you write your own speech. You write it out. And I mean, physically with your hand, write it. I've got more people trying to come in. So let me let some other people in to the room if I can. Let's see, where are we? Okay. Alondra, are you in now? I think I've got everybody here in. Alondra, Janie, Fatima, Jessica, Magali, and Ramon. Is that correct? Is there anybody? Well, I don't, if you're not, please go to your chat box and let me know that you're not in, and I will let you in. I think that pretty much I've got, or would you count off? I think somebody in the chat box. Oh, good, Fatima, thank you. Okay, so when you write your speech, physically write your speech rather than typing it, it makes it go much more to the memory. There's something about that physical writing that makes a difference.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Ms. Rodriguez.
Break it down into major bullet points. That's a very important thing. to break it down into major bullet points. And practice, practice, practice. I don't care how long you've been speaking and for how many people you've been speaking to, it's really important that you practice as much as possible, because I need you to please mute yourselves if you can for right now. Okay. Delivery and tone. What's your delivery tone? How are you going to deliver it? Are you going to, I know that, for instance, I have a very big voice, and there are different people that I present to that I have to watch my voice and not have my voice be too loud, because people will think that I'm yelling, and I don't want people to ever think I'm yelling. But it's offensive to some people, especially in foreign countries. It's very, very important that it's not so boisterous, if you will, okay? And your body language. I use my hands a lot when I'm speaking, and I walk around a lot. I move a lot, and that is a good thing for some people. Other people are much more comfortable behind a podium. For me personally, I would rather not be behind a podium, because I feel like a podium is separating me your group for the presentation. If you're going to a bunch of executives, for instance, if you're a man, you're going to definitely want to wear a tie, a nice crisp shirt and a tie. And I think a jacket is often important. If it's much more of a casual demographics, then dress to the demographics. It's more important that way. And you've got to be prepared. You've got to be prepared for just about anything that's going to happen, because all kinds of things can happen. Identify what you want to speak about, and learn your subject well. If you know your subject inside and out, you don't have to worry about having a speech memorized. I don't believe in memorizing a speech. I believe in having a speech memorable and in your mind, but not memorized. Committed to memory, but not memorized, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, I invite you all to, anytime during this, you can break in the somehow I got muted. I don't know how that happened. Are you guys all okay? Can you hear me okay? Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. Okay. I don't know what happened. Okay, here we go. So you want to be passionate about what you're speaking about. Understand your audience. Like I said, what is their gender? Makes a big difference. their ethnicity, their age. You know, you can say things to one audience that you can't say to another, depending upon their age and their social class. What's their social class all about there? Because you've got to be able to speak to their social class, not lofty things. If you're like a chemist and you're speaking all in scientific terms, it's not going to make any sense to the people that you're talking with. So you have to be careful about that. Why are they there? Why are the people there? Why are they there to listen to you? What is the big thing about them hearing you? You've got to recognize that, and you've got to know that, like, for instance, right now, I happen to be in the position of teaching. And so it's important that I deal with everybody and everybody can deal with me as a teacher of a certain subject. But I have to go in to the talk with that in mind. What are they hoping to learn? What are people hoping to learn from you? And what are you hoping to teach? That's a big thing. Really a big deal. What is it that you're wanting to teach? If you were sitting in this class and you were going to be taking a class, what would you want to walk away with, and what would you want to know? Be careful of when you're doing the demographics, again, what religion are you speaking to? Maybe it's mixed religions, that's okay, or however it's going to be. But it's important that you know their family life cycle, their education, as I talked about, in the social structure, and also the income level that you're talking to. All very, very important things. Understand your venue. If you're presenting live, go to the venue before you're going to speak. How are the acoustics in the venue? You want to know what the acoustics are all about. You want to know the size of the stage that you're going to be on and where your audience is going to be in regards to the stage, in reference to the stage. Where are they going to be? Are you in front of them? Are you in the middle? Where are you? The sound system is extremely important. And you have to make sure that your sound system is working correctly and you're not getting feedback. So I recommend very, very strongly that before you start to speak in a room, you go to that room and you rehearse it. Not your whole speech necessarily, but you rehearse enough that you can get going to know whether you're going to have feedback or whatever. And your lighting is important. Can you see the audience? I like to have, for myself personally, I like to have some of the house lights on so I can see the audience. I don't like to be in a spotlight where I'm blinded to the audience. I like to be able to work with the audience and be a part of it. And you, like I said, you test the mic. And what is your backdrop? That makes a difference too. What is your backdrop all about? And it also makes a big, big difference, not only with your backdrop when you're speaking in person, but your backdrop when you're speaking virtually. It's very, very important. Check your background when you're speaking virtually. Make sure that you test how viewers are going to see you. Always turn your video on so you can see yourself and see what your background is all about. If you're talking virtually, there's nothing worse than a messy background. Yes, you can use the virtual background, and those are nice. In a lot of respects, they're very nice. but check your placement within the frame of what everybody is going to be seeing from you. Check your room lighting and the lighting on your face. It's very important. Black out any light behind you. I don't know if you can notice that where here I am sitting in my office, but I have a window behind me that I have closed the blind. So the blind, otherwise what would be happening is the glare from the sunlight would be coming through that window and you wouldn't be able to see my face. Make sure what viewers see is what you want them to see. This is up to you. And it's not only when you're speaking virtually, but also when you're speaking to people in a live audience. Be sure your mic is off when you're not speaking. This is so important. I'm going to tell you a story about a time that I was speaking and pardon me, I had a lapel mic and we had a break in the room, a break for everybody to go out and have coffee and so on and so forth and go use the restroom, etc. And I went out of the room and went into the restroom, and I'm talking to a friend of mine came into the restroom and we're talking, and he said, how is everything going for you? And I said, everything is going really, really well, except I've got this one person in the room is asking all these really stupid questions, and I can't believe it. You would think that they would know what they were doing, and all of a sudden comes running in one of my assistants from the room and saying, your mic is on, your mic is on. And so the whole room could hear what I was saying about the stupid person asking me, or not the stupid person, the person that was asking stupid questions. I was so embarrassed, you guys. I wanted to die. It was horrible. And I had to go back and face them. Nobody asked any questions the second time around. It's pretty funny. It's okay to be nervous. Makes you more on your game. People who are nervous, they're nervous because they care. And there's everybody now. Have I just blanked out the is everything okay?
You're recording now, John.
Okay, I'm recording and everything is going well. Okay. I'm trying to get rid of, I want to be able to see all of you, but I can't see you. If we do a gallery, then
They're all off camera.
are you guys seeing the gallery, or are you seeing the presentation?
We can't see the presentation.
Okay, I got to get rid of that then. And let's see. I don't know how that happened. Rosie, just for a second, mute yourself, will you? Let's see what happens. I don't know why. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to go back to how to combat nerves. A real good way to combat your nerves is taking deep breaths and walking. I know that before I go on stage or before I start to teach, that I will walk and rehearse my opening line in my head, back and forth, back and forth. Not that I have memorize the speech, but I do believe in using the opening line that you have nailed down. Because that, once you start to speak, then you start to relax. And so, like I said, don't memorize the speech, but memorize an opening line. Physically write the speech. As I said, use a pen and paper to help you learn your subject. It really is amazing the difference between typing it and writing it. It's more beneficial to write, much more. Only memorize highlights of your speech. And that you can have, if you need to, especially if you happen to be speaking from a podium and you're quoting figures and facts and so on and so forth, I think it's a good idea to write those on little index cards, the figures and the facts. It's important to do that because you've got to get those facts correct. And you will have those right in front of you then. And you could even use the index cards if you're not behind the podium, if you're talking, walking around on the stage. And now I'm talking about actual presenting on a stage rather than virtually. It makes a big difference in what the two things that you're going to be doing. Like I said, rehearse an opening line. A good way to start a speech is to ask the questions that will spark curiosity to your listener. For instance, I might say to all of you, have you ever wondered what it's like to walk out onto a stage and stand in front of 5,000 people? And you're going to all say, oh my gosh, I don't know about that. But it's going to get your mind sparked into what I'm going to talk about. And the fact that I'm going to talk about what it's like to stand in front of 5,000 people or what it's like to stand in front of 5 people. I think it can be equally as unnerving to speak in front of 5 people as it is in front of 5,000, almost more so, as a matter of fact. I know you probably find that hard to believe, but how many of you, would you unmute yourselves for a minute and tell me how many of you have ever spoken to a group?
I have.
You have, Ramon? Who have you spoken? How many people?
Let's see, maybe classroom, 30 people.
30 people? And how were you? Were you nervous about that or what?
Yes, at the beginning.
At the beginning, and then once you got into that rhythm, it really helped, didn't it?
Yes, because then I was able to see them in the eye and see what their reaction was and kind of get into the rhythm.
Yes, that's great. And what did you do this for, Ramon?
It was a speech class.
A speech class. Oh, okay. So you
Yeah.
so everybody was in the same boat.
Yes, we had to present something, and so there was no way out of it.
There was no way out of it. Okay. Who else has spoken in front of people or have not? Who has and have not? Go ahead and unmute yourselves, please. Rosie, how about you? Have I lost you, Rosie? Janie, what about you? I sure hope I haven't lost everybody. Seems like I'm not getting any answers.
I'm right here, John.
Oh, you're there.
Sorry,
Okay,
yes.
great. Okay. Have you ever spoken in front of people, Rosie?
Yes, I have. And it was, at first it was nerve-wracking, but before I went to speak, I I made sure that I practiced a little bit, and then just, I knew that my audience was not gonna know if I made a mistake or not. I was the only one in charge to talk about what I was gonna be presenting. So if I made a mistake, they would have no clue of if I made a mistake or not. So that's how I
Oh,
was, that's how I was thinking.
okay. And did that help you?
It did, because the previous times I would always focus on the people. And this time, the last time that I went, I just looked straight and just started saying what I was gonna say.
Okay.
And it helped me a lot.
Did you ever, Ramon just brought up, it was interesting about being able to look in people's eyes. I find that when I'm speaking that once again, we're talking about in person. When I'm talking in person, I make sure that I look at every single person in the audience as best as possible. If I'm in like a classroom of 30 people, I can look at people in the eyes and let people think that you are talking to them personally. Does that make sense? It's hard to do, but it really does make a difference. Then you'll go into the main body of your speech and tell stories to support your feelings and your findings. Like I told you the story about what happened with me with the open mic. I want to tell you that was one of the most embarrassing things that's ever happened to me. But I learned a lesson. Now my mic goes off, absolutely, totally off whenever I leave a room or whenever I'm done speaking. And the conclusion, you want to bring out the conclusion of your speech, round it off without ending with questions. Ask questions during the speech, but never end on a question. And here's the reason you don't want to end on a question. You know how at the end of a class, the teacher will say often, does anyone have any questions about this? And then if nobody answers, the speaker is standing there on the stage all by themselves and without any support of any kind. And you need that support. So if you ask questions throughout the speech, then you don't end up standing there with egg on your face at the end. It's a really good thing to practice in front of a mirror. I know this may sound funny, but if you do practice in front of a mirror, you can see how your face looks when you're talking. Now, I know that, for instance, with myself, when I'm listening to people talking or whatever, or I'm just being quiet, I have a very serious look on my face. I am not a serious guy. I am a jokester, and I laugh a lot and I have a lot of fun. And that's kind of what I'm all about, is I like to, but when I'm not speaking, I can almost look like I'm angry. My wife will sometimes say to me, smile, honey, what's wrong with you? Smile. And there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just being intent on what I'm speaking about. So that's why it's important that you speak in front of a mirror so you can see it. And practice with a friend that is going to be a friend that is going to really be honest with you and tell you whether or not you're screwing up or you're doing a really good job. It's really very important. Another thing that's important is to record yourself practicing. If you can, and now that we all have cell phones, we can record ourselves. And one of the things that you can do, if you go through a whole speech and you've recorded it, you're going to find that you say things over and over, like or starting off a sentence that way. And you don't want to necessarily do that. Some people say the same things a lot, and you want to be careful of that. It can get monotonous. Once again, only memorize the highlights of your speech. Don't memorize the whole speech. Practice, practice, practice. It's so important. People will forget a speech, but they will never forget a story. So always tell a story that the audience can relate to. If that makes any sense. I'm sure that it does make sense that when you are talking about speaking in front of people, tell some stories that maybe were embarrassing to yourself, like my story of my gosh, getting caught with the mic on. I felt so ridiculous afterwards. But if you tell that story or tell other stories, I can remember a time that I was getting ready to go out and speak to a large audience. This was in the very, very beginning of when I started speaking to large audiences. I was hyperventilating before I was going out. I was so scared that I finally sat down and put my head in between my legs and just did deep breathing so I could take my mind off of how nervous I was about going out there to speak. Of course, no one saw that. And luckily, I got out there and I remembered my opening line. And once I got the opening line out of my mouth, it was better. I found that I did better. You don't want to be monotone. Some people have any of you ever gone to a speech that you just about go to sleep in? Unmute yourself, please. Nobody's talking. You're leaving me on that stage with egg on my face. You don't want to be monotone because you just go to sleep. Sometimes speaking softly, though, can make a bigger impression. Like all of a sudden, you know my voice is big. If I tell you that I've got something really important to say to you, and I bring my voice down, you're going to listen a little bit harder than you would listen to me on a normal basis. You're just listening harder. So what you do is you take that really important thing and bring your voice down rather than up. You can bring it up if it's something that you want them to remember as well, but you want to go up and down and up and down. You always want to be able to have your voice not monotone, but more moving up and down. Your facial expressions, I just got done talking about that, and your body language. Your body language is so important, and smiling is important, and being genuine. The bottom line is, the more genuine you are with an audience, and real and honest and so on with an audience, the more they're going to be with you, the more they're going to work with you and help you make your speech much more impressionable because they're helping you. But they can spot you a mile off if you're not being genuine. If you are sitting and you're speaking like on a panel or something like that, you want to make sure that you sit up because it does change your facial expression. Lean in when you're making a point. When you can do that either standing or you can do that when you're sitting. And as you can see, you guys, I totally believe in hand gestures. I use my hand gestures all the time. So I find for me that is important. Your grooming. has a lot to do with the way you feel about yourself. And this happens a lot when you're working from home. If you now going back to virtual speaking, I know that it is very, very important for me that here I am in a one-man office, and it's in my home. It's separated from my house. I've got a separate building that my office is in, but it's very important for me to get up in the morning and to shower and shave and pull myself together and dress appropriately and come out and work rather than coming out. I find that I'm much more productive when I've dressed for work. And the same thing happens when you're speaking. Dress for speaking. Wear deodorant. It's important. It's about your self-esteem. Use breath mints for close encounters. If you happen to have eaten something beforehand, you don't want to, or drunk coffee beforehand, you got coffee breath and it's not real attractive. How's your hair? Is it clean versus messy? And if you have facial hair, any of you, well, somebody might have facial hair, Ramon. Make sure that it's trimmed and wear clean clothes and clothes that are ironed. Very important. Dress up. It builds confidence. Dress for your audience. Once again, I talked about this in the very beginning, how important it is that you know your demographics and you dress for your audience. When I first started delivering the key class, I was teaching at-risk kids only. That's how I started, I was working with all at-risk teenagers. And I started by going in a suit and a tie to meet with these kids and to talk to them. And at the end of the course, which was 4 classes long, and it was done over 4 different weeks, I had gotten to know these kids pretty well just through meeting with them. And there were a dozen kids in the room. And I got to know them because each time I spoke with them, it was for 2 hours. And so I said at the end, what is it that I could do that would better serve you? What would it be? What could I do to change how I'm speaking to you to make it easier for you? Rosie, you know I've asked you that question myself. And I believe it's really important. The first thing that came out of one of the boys' mouths was, get rid of the suit and tie. The minute you come in here with a suit and tie, nobody wants to listen to you. They want to shut you off. They shut you down completely because you are coming to us as though you are an authority, which you are an authority on what you're speaking about, but you don't want to be authoritative. And I understood that completely. And I've never worn a suit and a tie to speak in again to that group of people and to younger people. I find that they relate to me much more if I'm dressed nicely, but in business casual. I don't wear a tie, but sometimes it's important. You want to be age appropriate. For whatever your age happens to be, you want to be age appropriate in your dress. And a blouse, watch the cut on the blouse, ladies, because you don't want it to be too revealing. If there's question and answers, anticipate possible questions and answers. Have friends ask you questions. If you're prepared, that's what you're going to do, is you're going to have your friends ask you questions or ask yourself questions. Practice, practice, practice. I say it over and over again. And always have water available. I know that I drink a lot of water when I'm speaking. And so make sure that you have water available. If you're using a clicker or you're using a mic that is a battery operated mic, make sure that you have extra batteries with you someplace, or that you have somebody that is working with you has that. Be ready to continue your presentation if your slides stop working. That can happen. We've seen that happen. I've been with all of you, maybe not all of you, but most of you, when we had a lot of problems with the internet and things going down and not working correctly. You can't lose your cool. You've got to stay cool and calm and as presentable as possible. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to all, I'm going to put you on I want to be able to look at all of you. There you go. Okay. Thank you, Ramon. Takako, can I see you? There you are. There you are. Now, tell me, if anything, what was your takeaway for today? And I'll start just as I see you on my screen. And Rosie, you happen to be the first one. What is a takeaway for you for today?
Knowing your delivery tone, your tone of voice,
Uh-huh.
and
Okay.
to always practice and make sure you understand your audience and their age, gender, and their social class.
Okay. What about you, Ramon? What kind of a takeaway do you have for today?
Don't say too many ums.
Don't use fillers. Don't use fillers.
Right. But I think you said something that's very, very important is rehearse, practice, practice, practice. And then rehearse your first line. And after that, the jiggers and anxiety is going to go away.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. How about you, Takako?
A lot of good information. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. It's a lot of good information, but I also I like that when you said that we should record ourselves talking, because sometimes when we do like a mock interview and record yourselves, and I'm surprised like how obnoxious I look, like with the hands and stuff. So I think it will be really nice to see myself recorded. And also it's a good tip to turn off the microphone during break time. That was a really good story.
Oh, that's the worst. The worst. Okay. What about you, Janie?
Yeah, I like the part about the fillers. I just recently saw a speaker and I swear every other word he'd say, you know what I mean, you know what I mean, you know what I mean. It was just drove me nuts. I didn't get anything out of the speech.
Because you were counting how many times you were saying, you know what I mean, you know what I mean, right?
Right.
It makes it difficult. It really does. And do you know another thing that can happen is when people say to you, now let me be honest with you, or I'm going to be honest with you, as though they haven't been honest at all before. Let me be honest with you. Oh, okay. Does that mean that everything that you had to say before this is no good? You didn't mean anything by it? What is that all about, right? Just an everyday conversation, people say, let me be honest with you.
Yeah, like if they were not honest in the past.
Yeah, exactly. C. Romero.
Okay, I have, no, I had to find the button. I'm slow. I really think my takeaway is to only memorize the highlights of a speech. I like the idea of practicing I would in the future, just like on an index card, what I was going to talk about, and then continue to talk on my own, but only memorize the highlights. I've known from personal experience, impromptu speaking, oh yeah, worst embarrassing moments ever. So I thank you for that.
Okay, good, good. And who have you spoken to and how many times have you been a speaker?
I've been a facilitator for probably over 20 years. I've been doing employment, what you do for the Job Training Partnership Act and WIOA. I've spoken with youth, a lot of classrooms and workshops, facilitated
Oh,
workshops.
okay.
And so, and just knowing the subject matter. That's what I learned from day one, is just know your subject matter. And a good employer will
Right.
train you well to give you all the information you need. Then as long as you have that information, you just make it your own. If this is my personality, then this is just how I talk. You just make it your own, you know. But
Exactly.
No,
You take it.
for sure.
That's really good advice. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
That's really good advice. Make it your own. Yeah. Well, thank you very, very much. Is there anyone, and I know I just told you all, don't ever end on questions, but does anyone have any questions? And if not, I'll go on a little bit more. No one has any questions? I want to tell you a story about.
John, I wanted to say something.
Oh,
Do you know that we don't see your presentation at all?
oh, you don't?
No, we just see you
Oh, now,
the whole time.
the whole time you didn't see my presentation?
Right.
No, I did not know that. And that's why I was asking. Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. We saw it in the beginning. It was up in the beginning and then it went away.
Yeah. Now, let's see. What do you see now?
Your screen, we could see your screen.
You could see my screen before?
No, not right now. I mean, yes, we see it right now, but not before.
I wonder what was happening there. Because when we started off, it was okay, right?
Yes, it was, but then it changed.
Janie, I'm really glad you told me that. That's not good at all.
We were only able to see the identifiers. That was it.
I beg your pardon?
We were only able to see the first slide.
Well, let's look at these slides then. I think it's important that you see the slides. You saw this slide, right?
Yes.
And then did you see this one?
No.
I
Oh,
wonder
yes,
what,
yes. No, we did. Yes, we did. Sorry.
okay, I don't know what happened. Right in the middle, something happened where it changed, remember?
Yes.
And all I could see was all of you guys. I couldn't see anything on the screen. And therefore I thought that none of you could either. And I guess I was right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
I'm
that's
sorry to
not-
have to tell you about it.
No, I'm glad that you are telling me. And please, I ask if anything ever goes amok like this again, when I'm speaking with you, because I know that I speak with all of you very often, please be sure and tell me, because this is all about you guys. It's all about you and what you're learning. And I want you to get the most out of this that you can possibly get out of it. So you can see what I was talking about with lighting and so on. Now you can see my screen, all right?
Yes.
Okay. And can you also see you guys on the right-hand side?
Yes.
Okay. See, before, all I was getting was just one person, one name, and that was it. I'm sorry about that. Check your background, so on. I think this is where it went weird, didn't it?
No, it was before this.
Was before this.
Yeah, it was
Oh.
about like the third screen.
I wonder what happened.
We
I'll
were
tell you,
we were
I
having
will be,
problems.
I will be so glad when we can all be back together again and we can be in person. It's so much.
Me too.
Oh, won't it be wonderful? This is so much, for me, I'll tell you, it's much more difficult to teach this way because of things exactly like what you just said, Janie. Obviously, something went wrong. I probably hit a button that was wrong. Knowing me, I probably hit a button and something went wrong, but I'll be glad when it's over. But it's good that we have this, at least. That's for sure.
Yeah, we wouldn't know you without it, John.
Exactly, exactly. And well, someday I'm gonna come up there and I'm gonna introduce myself to everybody.
Great.
Oh, that would be nice.
I'll just make a drive up to Santa Maria.
We'll be waiting.
Okay, well, listen, it's been wonderful. And I'm sorry that you didn't get to see all the presentation, but now I think that was the explanation enough for you though, without seeing the slides and so
Yeah,
on?
I was just gonna say that it was still good even without the slides.
Oh, well, good, good. Well, I'm glad. I'm just gonna flip through these quickly for the people that tune into this later on at another time because of the recording. So how do you like this little dog getting ready to speak? Well, I enjoy it and I will see you guys next month now.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
John, would you be able to go back to the one before the attire? I was trying to do a screenshot. The one before that? That one, the dog one, yes, thank you.
Okay. Do you want me to? I could go through the whole presentation very slowly. Would that be a help for you guys? Would you like me to do that, Janie? Would that help you?
No, I'm good, John.
Okay, very good. Takako, okay with you?
Yes, it was great. It was good
Okay.
information. Thank you, John.
All right, thank you
Thank you,
all very
John.
much.
I
Have a
took my
great
notes.
weekend.
You too, thank you, and enjoy the weather.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.